Hello everyone, please watch the full video. This is the part 2 of Fragments. In this video, we will understand how to load dialog inside a fragment. When we click on this button, find more details. If you click on this button, find more details, it will open a confidential details dialog. This dialog is getting loaded inside a fragment. In the previous video, we understood how to load the XML fragment using the core fragment control inside a XML view. This is another use case of fragment. Sometimes we load the fragment in the form of dialog in the form of dialog. How do we do that? What if I load the same data, same thing in a dialog box here on click of some button? Let's see it how we can do it. This is the another way where we are loading the fragment in controller. So I close this bank detail fragment here. I close my manifest.json file also. And to some extent, we would require the app because this is where we are going to write our code. Let me create a button here because I want to load the fragment on the click of a button. I need to give a ID to this button. Button ID, you can say a button ID, you can say open fragment or open bank details. This is the button ID I can mention. Now what I will do, there is one property of button. Now there is another property of button which is called type. There could be different type. Right now I'm using emphasized. This is one of the type of button. Once we will load the button on UI, you will see what is emphasized mean. And I can write one text. Text is also again one property. What I want to display on the button, I want to say find more details. Find more details. So this is what I want to display on my button. And there are other properties as well that we'll just close this. We will add them later. There is a property called press event, what event we are going to pass, so that we can display. But for now we are just creating the button with these three and let it open. Button is coming, find more details, right? Similar way, I can actually create one more button just to show you what all type of button are there, like not all the types, later we will show what all types are there. I can say demo button, and the type I can give is, this could be neutral type button, and text I can give anything, uh, like refresh or anything. Just for this is just for demo, refresh demo, anything I can give, and okay, let it keep only refresh. This is the text and press and everything. Just close it and just see how this button looks like. What is natural? What does natural looks like? Once the application will load, we'll go to the application. We'll see it. Now the application is getting load. This is the type of button: gray highlighted, blue highlighted. If I just reverse them, it would look more good. I think this neutral will look better in the above button, and this emphasized would look better on the below button. See, this is actually not only about the looks. Button we are designing in SAPUI5 specifically based on the use case, what the button is doing. It is for navigation back, it is to reject any item, or it is to add some new item. So there are different types of button that we will see later. Find more details. What I want is once I click on this button, it should be it should open a new fragment. It should open the same data in a new fragment. This is what we are doing. Right now, what I will do, I will replace this refresh button here on the top because here it will look more good. So what I do is I remove this refresh button. This is we are doing just for learning, just for fun, not for this refresh button has nothing to do with our development. I'm just showing you what kind of buttons are there. Above content, if why I'm showing you is that assume this is our header, right? Where our title is coming, I18 and title is written. So I just remove it because I18 and we'll discuss later. Account, I'm giving a title called account. Now if I want in the same title on the right side something to be displayed, something to happen, that I want to show you, that the application load. Now application is getting loaded. Here the account, here the account details, my bank details, this is the app name. On this right side, if I want to put that button, how would I do that? So I have to create above content, below page. You have to see the content aggregation. I will create one header content. It is automatically created. Inside header content, I will paste that button. So what will happen? The button will automatically replaced from this place to, I mean, wherever it was visible earlier, just nearby this bank detail button for find more detail. Now it is not there, it is actually here on the refresh. So if you want to place anything, if you want to display on this right side, you can put it in the header content. Like this, you need to remember what different controls are there to place something. Our core fragment is also done, and I think it is not automatically formatting, so I just hit Shift Alt F, and now it got format. Now my button is also visible. Everything is set. What I need to do is that now I need to create another fragment. I tell you what's the problem. If we are going to display the same detail, you might ask why we are not using the existing fragment. It is because when we open the fragment using click of a button from controller, we are opening everything inside a dialog box. So we need to create a dialog box. This is a very important difference is that else we could have used the same controller, sorry, same fragment. We can't use it because here we just want to display the detail in XML, but there we want to display the detail in a dialog box. If I add the dialog box here, this nothing would be loaded here. If I add the dialog box, if I don't add the dialog box, then only it is added here. So I have to create another fragment, which would be much better. So I go to my fragment, new file, and I can say more details. More details. Find more details we are creating, right? So I just give more detail dot fragment dot xml. And again, I need to make one fragment definition. Last time how we did it, in the same way we will do. We will write core fragment definition, right? And we will also close this fragment definition, core fragment definition. We are going to close this. Now here, once it is done, the fragment definition, now what I do, I put my libraries XML, and S, SAP.m. First library, XML and S, sorry, colon, core equal to sap.ui.core. These two you remember all the time. Whenever you start work in any fragment, any controller, you remember, just maintain them by hand. Don't just copy paste. Do it by your hand. So every time you remember what are the significance of these libraries. Without these two libraries, nothing will load. Even a single text control cannot be loaded in UI5. So these two libraries are very important. And from interview perspective, also the interviewer asks you what all UFI libraries you know. So at least tell these two names and tell them like these are the highly important libraries that we have to define on each fragment and each view. This is what the significance of these libraries. Now I would create one dialog. Dialog is another control again in the same way how we have text, how we have labels, we have the dialog. But and dialog needs to be closed. Now I have opened the dialog, I have closed the dialog. Again, I have to provide one ID. So this is more bank details, right? This is my dialog ID or bank details. Inside the dialog, now I can mention anything what I would like to do. But before that, I want to show you dialog has one more property, which is called title. And in title, I can say confidential details, right? Because we are displaying the more bank details, there could be other confidential details as well. So this is a dialog that I'm creating, but we are not opening this dialog as of now. As of now, we are not opening anything here because to open this dialog, to open this fragment, we have to write the logic in controller. Right now, everything is fine. For find more details, I can say on the left side, there is no margin. So let's put some margin here. So you remember that what SAP classes is standard classes that we are using. We need to put the margin. This is my button. And after this text, I am adding one class, and the class is SAPUI small margin where begin or end. It should be begin because left side we want margin. So we'll keep SAPUI small margin begin, and this is keep opening, keep getting closed. Okay, now it is looking somewhat better. It is looking somewhat better. Now our goal is to display these details in a dialog. So first let me open the dialog. How to open this dialog? If I click on this button, something should happen, right? That dialog box should get opened, but it is not getting open right now. What I will do, I will add one new property, and this new property is important because it is a press event. It is a property. If somebody say, is press a property of button? Yes, it is a property of button. That's where we define the name of the function, name of the function where all the logic will run. So here I'm giving a name dot on open bank details, that if somebody click it, it should open the bank details. It is automatically getting saved. Open bank details, this is a new property I have defined here. Now what I will do, I will copy this, and this time I will go to the respected controller. As I said, does not have fragments, don't have their own controller. Whatever you want to define, you have to define it in the controller of the same view where we are declaring the fragment. Same view, right? The app view. So app controller, we will write the logic wherever the button is. If we are opening it from this find more details button, we need to find where this button is into app view, and from app view we would actually from app view we would load the dialog. So I'm going to the controller, and this is the app controller. Inside the app controller I need to mention all the logic. This is our on init function. Here we won't do anything, and in our controller we will write the actual logic. So what I do is I copy paste my function here. This is my function name, column. This is the function declaration. In old JS, in new JS, the function declaration is changed, but we are just keeping it easy. So this is the function. Here I would write the logic. So I would say that create dialog lazily. Lazy way we want to create the dialog. Let me show you how it works. First of all, we have to check whether dialog is already there or not. Still, it's not created, but once it will create. It should not keep on loading the same dialog, right? So we are keeping it a condition here if, and we are keeping it as a condition not true. Whenever you write this exclamation mark, it means not true. This dot more bank details. I'm just giving it as a name, more bank details. This is a fragment. So what I'm writing that if it is not there, create one. This dot more bank. This is the standard way to declare the fragment in controller, right? If it is not there, create one. How you would create? There is a standard function called this dot load. Let me open it on the bigger screen. This dot load fragment. This is a standard function. This dot load fragment. Inside this, at the end, we need to give semicolon. Inside this, we will pass. This is a standard method. Inside this, we will pass one object, and inside that object, we will pass key and value. This is the structure of any object: key and value. In key, I would pass. These are the standard key and standard value name. And what name I will pass? I'll pass the name of my fragment which I want to load, and this name I can copy from this because here I loaded. This is the name of the fragment. Name of the fragment means the path of the fragment, right? So view, then fragments, then bank details. So what I do, I just copy paste it. The only difference is now we are not loading bank details, we are loading more details. So instead of bank detail, I will put as more details. This is the fragment that we are loading this time. This is done. Once this part is completed, now what we will do, we will come to the if condition. This is where the if condition is ending. Wherever the if condition is ending, we will put this dot more bank details. Sorry, okay, we have kept it as more bank details. Dot then. This is again a predefined function that we are using. Dot then. That once you checked whether more bank details are there or not. If it is not there, it will execute this. If it is there, first it will create one. If it is not there, first it will create one, and then it will execute. So this function anyway would be executed in all the possibility. Dot then function, and Inside the function, I'm just giving or dialog, just a representation to my dialog, and then since it's a function, so if it is a function, then these two parameters would be there inside the function, and whatever is the ending, I'm just keeping it as semicolon. Because if you see any function, this is a declaration of function. If we are doing it, you can see the above function also. This is a function, right? This is a function. If function is there, these parentheses would be there, and this closing and opening braces would be there. Same thing I'm doing. I'm writing this dot more details where my fragment definition is there. Then I'm putting a then function. Then is a standard method. So if it is a standard method, we are not writing any function or anything. So then is open and close. Inside this, I'm giving a function, right? If I can show you, because it might be a little difficult for you. This is the then function. Forget about this part. Forget about this part. This is the actual thing happening now inside this then function. What I'm doing, I am creating one more function, and I'm passing one reference of o dialog. Now since I'm creating a function, I also have to create open and close braces, and we can keep it together so it will look somewhat better. Yes, now O dialog is there, and I just write O dialog dot open, and yes, that's all. That's all it will take to open this fragment. Where somewhere it requires comma. I'm not sure where it is exactly. This is if condition. This is then. Okay, this function definition is wrong. FUNC function dialog. Everything is fine. Okay, I just formatted Shift Alt F. Now it is looking somewhat good. So what we are doing, checking the fragment, creating the fragment, and opening it or dialog.open. Let's see if our code works fine or not. This is what it happening, and in the fragment, not sure if application is not getting, if application is not loading, then it's a problem. In XML, this is our XML code. This is our button. This is our button, and this is the method that is getting called. Once we click in the app, it will open this method. Now let's see, application is loading. If I click on this, it is opening one dialog, confidential details. Where is this dialog? This dialog is more details fragment. So there is a fragment definition, but inside the fragment definition, I have a dialog which has the title confidential details. That's why it is visible here. Now what was our goal? If I just press escape button, it will close. What was our goal? Our goal is to put this data inside the dialog. So it's not a big thing. Just go to your actual uh, fragment, copy the data, copy the data, and in more details inside the dialog, paste it. Inside the dialog, paste it, and just remove the title because title is not required. And what will happen? It should work fine. Since it's a more detail, we can actually add one or two more edge boxes. Right now there are three edge boxes. We can add one or two more edge boxes. So application is getting loaded, and that's how everything, because the style classes are implemented, everything is coming here. Three. Let me put two more. Let me put two more edge box here. I have just pasted two more edge box here, customer ID and address. So it will look like more details we are providing, customer ID we are providing, address we are providing. It would look something better. Let the application load. If I click this, I'm getting on. Why I'm getting space here? Let me figure it out. If I see, I'm giving margin end. Here I'm giving margin bottom in the Hbox string. So I just remove this class. It's not required. We don't have to give margin on the Hbox level. And if I will load this time, it will load perfectly. If I click on find more details, it is coming. This is how the fragments are getting loaded. But now still one task is pending. How do we close this fragment? If it is loaded, I have to close it also. Every time user can't use escape button, there should be some close button here, somewhere here. We will create that. I will go to my more details fragment. After everything we have to write inside the dialog. Don't write anything outside the dialog box. Just write everything inside the dialog box. And the dialog box has one property called begin button. Begin button is a control where we can create one button, and that button we can close the dialog using that button. So I just give button ID. I can say close button is the ID. There is some problem with this. Okay, button close button. This is the ID, and I can write a text called close. So it should look okay. C capital. C capital. Text is close. And again, same press. If press is the event, I can say on close bank bank details. On close bank details, and I can close this button. This is my button declaration. On close bank details. Let me see if this button is visible or not. We will go to the application, we will click, and our button is visible. The close button is coming automatically, the lines are there, so it looks good. That's where we use the begin button control. We don't use this everywhere wherever we declare button. Only in inside the dialog we are using the begin button. Now our button is available, but when we click on this button, this dialog is not getting closed. Let me show you how to do it. Again, for the same thing we have to do, press event is there, we have to write one logic in our controller. Now you see the XML, when we had the button, we were writing the logic in the app controller because the app view is there. But now we are into the fragment, our button is inside the fragment, but still we will write the logic in the same controller, the same app controller, because fragments doesn't have their own, don't have their own controllers. We write the logic in the same view controller wherever the fragment is declared. Now let me find the end of this function, and you put one comma. Comma is important, otherwise your function won't run. Wherever the one function is getting ended, like on in it is ending here, that's where we are keeping one function here. Wherever this function is getting end, we will start new function. This is our function name, colon. This is our function declaration, function parenthesis and opening and closing braces. This is a function declaration. Now what we want to do here, inside this, I want to close one dialog. Which dialog I want to close? This O dialog. What is this O dialog? This dot more bank details. We can actually write this dot more bank details dot close. That would also work fine. But I give you very unique way, not unique, but it is the most simplest one. This dot by ID dot close. This is a method that you can utilize to close this existing fragment. You need to copy the ID of this dialog. Wherever we have the dialog declaration, more bank details, this ID you need to copy. Now I'm showing you what is the use of ID now, how we can utilize ID. If I copy this ID, go to my controller, sorry, this dot by ID, and in a string, I can put the ID and I can save this. Our application is loading. If I click find more details, confidential details are visible, and if I click on close button, the fragment is getting vanished. It is no longer the part of this UI. I mean, it is not visible on the UI. So this is what we have learned. We have learned about fragments. We have learned about the standard SAP CSS classes, and the same way we will learn more concept in the next video. Now we will actually push this code to GitHub, because now we have a lot of code that we have generated. So we need to push this code to GitHub, and we need to make sure that our code is safe every time we push it to GitHub. So I will show you how we can keep our master branch safe, how we can check whether code is pushed to the GitHub or not. All these things we will do now. This is what we have learned in this tutorial. This is what we are going to learn in this tutorial. This is what we are going to learn in this tutorial. We will create one title and a few label and text properties, and there's one button called find more details. Once we click on the button, we are opening one fragment dialog. We are opening one fragment, inside that fragment one dialog, and same details we are loading, and on click of the close button we are closing the dialog box, closing the fragment. And these details we are loading inside a fragment, not inside the view directly. We are using the core fragment control, and we are loading this UI inside the fragment. Here also we are loading this UI inside the fragment in a dialog. Thank you.